hit record. I will. There you go. Hey, so first of all, my name's Denis Gianoutsos. I'm going to be sharing or working with you today, or talking to you about building a successful podcast. We'll get underway with that as well. Hey, just two in the room. Can you just tell me who you are, where you're living, and just real quickly, what do you do, just to help me understand? And the other thing too would be, do you have a podcast? Please do let me know if you do. So who would like to go first?
Me? Just so that you know, I'm Mitch. I'm Karen Boyter. I'm an attorney and a mediator, and I own a company called Dignified Dispute Resolution, which does mediation and various other things. And I'm based in Cape Town.
Very cool. Do you have a podcast?
Do I ever?
Do you have a podcast?
Oh, good Lord, no.
Good Lord, no. No. Okay, good. Good to know. Thank you. Who's
one, but it's like a lot of hard work. So that's why I'm here today.
Excellent. Okay, thanks. James, over to you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. James Liddell from Lifestyle Clinic in Cape Town, where I practice integrated health. So those are holistic solutions for healthcare problems. And I do have a podcast channel.
Nice. And what's the podcast called?
Intuitive Minds.
Yeah, excellent.
So it's more about elevating consciousness.
And how long have you been doing the podcast for?
About 18 months.
Oh, awesome. Very good. Well done. What episode are you up to?
We don't have one every month. So I would say we might have about 12 episodes.
Very good. Well done. Thank you. Hey, who wants to go next? For those who've just joined.
I'll go.
Yeah, thanks. You'll notice that I'm not Mike Hancock. Mike's actually asked me to stand in for him today. He's actually traveling. And so today's session is going to be about building a successful podcast. I'm just asking people real quickly just to introduce themselves, their name, where they're based, what they do, and also whether they have a podcast. And Gavin's going next.
Right. I'm Gavin Taylor. I'm a C-suite executive in the construction industry. And I'm effectively heading towards retirement age, but I'm very keen on launching a podcast to start really transferring knowledge and pain through a 40-year career into young minds entering the industry.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. Well done. Thank you.
And I'm based in Cape Town.
Cape Town as well. Good. Thank you. Who's next? Okay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Yaniv Zaid. I do business consulting and speaking gigs on how to improve your marketing, sales, and negotiation abilities. And I have a podcast. I was a host I joined many podcasts as a guest, dozens of podcasts in Hebrew and many more in English. And I took all those materials and I did my own podcast without my own studio. Maybe we're going to talk about this option, but for me, it's good. So I came to hear more tips. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Who's next, please? Can we go to Shazad? You want to go? You're on mute.
Okay. Hi. I'm Shazad. I live in Perth. I don't have a podcast, but I'm in the process of writing a book about my work that I've been doing in India for the last nearly 20 years. And I'm interested in putting myself out there, possibly in the way of podcasts. And great to see you too, Denis. Thanks.
Yeah, likewise. I was actually in Perth in October. I didn't know you lived there. So I know, unbelievable. Never mind. Hey everyone, thanks for joining. My name's Denis Gianoutsos. I'm standing in for Mike today. We were just asking people to share quickly about who they are and where they're based. Nadia, do you want to go next? Oh, you're on mute. That mute button works beautifully, doesn't it?
Yes. How's it, everybody? Hi. I'm in Cape Town, South Africa, probably the best place in the world. I'm founder of Acton, and I'm also Circle of Excellence Private Members Club area manager. And I don't have a podcast, and I'm yet to learn.
Excellent. Well done. Thank you. Welcome. Who wants to go next? And then what we might do is just go straight into the material as well. So who else would like to share before we get into it?
Sure, happy to share.
Okay.
Hi, morning everyone. So my name is Andy Delunga Stofile. I run an organization called the Leadership with a Soul Institute. I'm from SA, but for the past 2 years I've relocated to Botswana. And do I have a podcast? No, but part of the commitment is to actually have a podcast by no later than 1st of March. Because I've already got I've got quite a huge network of leaders. And so the podcast really is trying to focus on the story behind the story. Because, when I speak to my kids, they only see the success of a tennis. What they don't see is all the nasty stuff, right, that had happened. And so that's why they tend to think that things will come instantaneously, rather than, because no one actually shares the story behind the story. So that really is what the focus is going to be on.
Awesome. Hey, thank you for sharing. Hey, if you haven't already shared yourself and introduced yourself, what I'd like you to do is go into the chat. So I see some people are introducing themselves into the chat as well. But what I'm going to do is share my desktop. Just if you can let me know if you can see the beautiful island, the picture of the island. If you can see that, please let me know. That is an island in Greece that my dad is from. And hopefully you and I are going to go there one day, and we're going to spend some time doing and sharing, the island and having good fun. So building a successful podcast, just give me a thumbs up if you can see those slides. That'd be good. Excellent. Thanks very much. Look, it's interesting about podcasting. I have a lot of people come to me and ask me about starting a podcast. And in a nice way, I try to deter them from doing a podcast. Not because I'm wanting to be nasty, it's because it does take a lot of work. There is a lot of commitment in putting one together. And even Mike Hancock tried to stop me didn't try to stop me, he just said to me, don't do it, why would you want to do it? But I still continued to do it, and then so it's pretty cool. In fact, sometimes he speaks about that from stage and so forth. What I'd love you to do is just take some notes. I'm going to share with you today a little bit of an experience about what I've experienced around podcasting, but how it can help you build your business, your credibility, your authority in the market. See, a podcast is not a hobby. And if you want it to succeed, you're going to have to really not look at it as a side project or a side hustle, but something that you're going to need to do on a deliberate basis to build a podcast on a platform as an asset, as a long-term kind of thing that you want to do. What I find is that there are a lot of people who say to me, I want to start one, and I find out a little more about what they're wanting to do. It's probably not something they need to think about or do at the moment. Most podcasts tend to fail not because of the talent or lack of talent or ideas, but actually because of clarity, structure, and this key word, which is very important. The word between someone going from average to excellence comes down to this one key word, and it's consistency. And with podcasts, it comes down to that consistency. Why? Because if you're doing it consistently, your listeners are expecting it. They know when it's going to happen, and they have clarity. And if you don't, they get confused as well. Now, podcasting and a successful podcast comes down to a few decisions that you make and maybe a few things that you need to put in place. And those things are done very well. And so over the next few minutes, we've got an hour here. We'll just see how we go with time. What I'm going to do is walk through with you a few key areas that more separates podcasts that tend to fade away versus those who are successful. And so we'll get into that as we go. So my podcast is called Leadership is Changing. You should see that on the screen. I launched that in June 2020. That says 2026, 2020 there. So what is actually quite interesting is I launched that when we were in lockdown, we were during COVID. I had a lot of workshops and things cancelled, speaking gigs, so I wasn't able to do that. I own a company called Leading Change Partners, but I speak, facilitate, and coach with C-suite and senior leaders in organizations around the world. Prior to me starting my business about 8 years ago, I was in a global role with Hewlett-Packard, the IT company, and I was developing their high performers and executives around the world. But you notice that I've gone in 5.5 years, 806 episodes. And actually in December and January, we took 2 months off. We took December off and we're taking January off as well. And we're getting ready to revamp and relaunch things as well. Because I think after 5.5 years, taking a break was important for me and also for the team as well. It's been #1 in New Zealand a few times where I'm based. It's ranked really well in South Africa for those of you who are there. At the moment, I don't know why, maybe Putin is actually listening, but it's ranking very well in Russia at the moment as well. So I get to see all these different countries that it's doing well, and which is pretty cool. It's actually at times been the top 5 leadership podcast in the world, which has been pretty exciting to see. Why did I start a podcast? Well, Shazar World, actually, maybe you might remember or not, when we were in Bali together with Michael Lundy, but my voice was very hoarse and raspy, and you do remember that, yeah. And long story short, we found a tumor on my left vocal cord. Now, as a speaker, as a facilitator, as a coach, what's my tool? Of course, it's my voice. And that was going to be a bit of an issue. What we did is we found it where it was, and they went in there and took it out, and it was actually came back as being benign. And I got my voice back. And the next day when I spoke to my wife, she literally grabbed the wall in the hospital. She didn't recognize my voice. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So I started grabbing my mobile phone and ringing a whole lot of people and having fun because they saw my number come up, but they didn't recognize who I was. Even my mother didn't recognize the voice. So the podcast is a bit about my voice journey and being able to use my voice. So it's a little bit about like therapy for me as well, but also the guests that I interview around the world, it's about their voice being heard. And you think about the listeners, they are developing their leadership voice by learning about the things that we are sharing on the podcast. So that's a little bit of a background about who I am and a little bit about my podcast. Okay, there's some reality that you need to know about podcasts. There's about 3.7 million podcasts that exist globally today. I think Steve's coming in. So that's how many podcasts we have in the world today. Now, people say to me, oh, it's saturated. And I go, no, it's not. They go, why? Because the next bullet point is there's only about 500,000 approximately people that are active today in the last 90 days with their actual podcast. So there's not many that are actually out there that are active. The other thing too is if you think about other platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn and things like that, there's a lot of people on there. But podcasting, there's not a lot of people actually doing it. Now, most podcasts, people stop after episode 7 to 10. That's when they stop. And why do they stop? Because it becomes difficult, or they don't have systems in place. Not that they don't know what to do, but they find it difficult and they sort of tend to give up after that period of time. What we notice as well that stats are showing us, approximately 9% of people who are doing the podcast get to episode 50. Around 5 to 6% reach 100 episodes. But for guys like me who are at the 800 and more, it's actually quite interesting, and it's a very, very small number of people who actually do that. The other stat that's on the slide as well is 580 million plus people listen to podcasts worldwide. So there's still a huge amount of growth to happen. There's not everybody in the world. It hasn't even reached 1 billion listeners right now. So it's actually quite an interesting and exciting industry to be part of as well. Okay, I'm going to go through more slides, but if you've got questions, just hold them to the end, and I'll answer those questions for you as we go through it. The next thing I want to say to you is that we've got to get clarity before taking the mic. Now, what do I mean by this? Be clear on why you want to start or do a podcast. For me and for others, I think podcasting is about building your authority, building your influence, and also it's about making impact. And you've got to be clear about all those three different areas. What is the authority you're trying to build? What is the influence you're trying to do? And also, what impact are you trying to make? You know how I said earlier on that I actually sort of tried to deter people from starting their own podcast? If you are somebody who's wanting to start your own podcast, there's another easier way to do things. And that is go and be interviewed on 20 different podcasts. Now, why 20? Because I think it gives you enough of an understanding at what this podcast thing is, how it works, but also you get to experience other people interviewing you as well. So then you can become an even stronger and more effective person who interviews. Now, even if you do 10, that's cool. But what I'm going to do, ask you to do is maybe go in and experience it first before you start your own one. Because really podcasting, if you want to become an authority and you want to have influence, you can be interviewed by others, and that can still actually work as well. So there's two sides, being interviewed by others and being a guest on other podcasts, or you start your own one. The next bullet point is around defining your audience. Because if you're very clear about who your audience is, then that helps you start to create relevance for that audience. Because my audience tends to be the C-suite, the senior leaders, and now people who are coming up in the ranks in leadership. But when we talk about leaders, who are they? They're not just leaders that you see in a large corporate. They're actually entrepreneurs, they're business owners, they're people. Why? Because they are business owners. A lot of guests that I have come from business, whether it's large corporates or smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, but I also have community leaders, sporting leaders. So in their industries, they are an authority and a leader, and that's who I target. Decide on what success looks like for you. A lot of people go, oh, how many downloads? But it's not about downloads. Downloads is important, but the important thing is your reach around the world. The other important thing is, what are people actually getting out of the actual podcast? That's the important thing, right? And I'll talk about that as well. It's the value add that you're providing in the podcast. The last bullet point is around align your brand and your goals with your podcast, or your podcast vice versa. Mike and Lundy always talk about your branding, your positioning, and things like that. What you'll notice even through my slides today, so here I am on camera wearing a t-shirt that's got Leadership is Changing podcast. So I'm wearing this and I'm in the streets and things like that. The other day we're out in a market and my wife was about 600 meters up the road away from me, and she said to me, when she looked down the road, all she could see was this t-shirt because it just popped in the way it was, which was pretty cool. I think she was really looking for me too. I mean, it's not just the logo, right? It's also going to be me. So the thing here is aligning your brand. Even my slides today, the logo for my company's in the top right-hand corner. That's the gradient blue. The slides itself have got on it's like a transparency glow, as they call it. It's a blue as well. Later on, I've got a free gift for you to download if you're wanting to, but I'm going to show you some other assets that I have as a result of the podcast that I will share with you, but you'll see the actual alignment of the brand going throughout everything that I'm doing here as well, okay? Alrighty, so let's move on to the next slide, and that is, how about creating a podcast that will last, that doesn't go to episode 7 or 10, but goes longer than that. That it comes down to a few key things for you to think about. Select the right format. So in other words, pick what suits your energy and schedule. Now, what do I mean by that? Because it does take work. So what energy are you bringing to the actual interviews, or are you doing it yourself? So that's another point around here. The right format. Is it you interviewing people, in other words, one other person, or a panel of people, or are you doing it yourself? For some of you who already got podcasts, you may be just doing it yourself. So there's different formats you want to think about. Be smart about the way you're wanting to do it. So I chose 2 of those that I've shared. I selected whereby twice a week, so I do 3 episodes a week, 2 interviews around the world with somebody, and I would do on a Friday what we call a freestyle. And we call that episode Ask Denis. That's where people ask me a question, or I share my thoughts and experiences from working with many leaders around the world. So that's what we call the Ask Denis. Very soon, we're about to change that Ask Denis to a new program that I'm about to, and a new community that I'm about to launch as of tomorrow, actually, and it's called Adapt. And so what we're going to do is going to have that session, that episode known as Adapt. Now, the other thing too is a repeatable structure and cadence. Now, what do I mean by that? What is the structure of the episode? If it's going to be just you talking to them, how long do you talk for? I mean, Joe Rogan's episodes can go for 2 hours, 3 hours. Mine don't. They go for 30, 35 minutes because I think people's listening attention is only sort of for a short period of time. The other thing too is in the short form one, or the freestyle version that I do on the Fridays, that's 10 to 15 minutes long. And then people know that as well. But what is the structure of your episodes? How are you going to structure it? The other thing would be, when will the episodes be released? So when I was about to set up my podcast, I had a guy mentoring me and showing me what to do. He said, oh, how many episodes will you do a week? And I went, well, how many do you do? He goes, 3. Okay, cool. That's what I'll do. And he goes, whoa, wait a sec, because that's a lot of work. Are you sure? He said, look, if you start with 1 episode, you can increase to 2 or 3, but you can't start with 3 episodes and try and decrease to 2 or 1, because that's when you start to lose people in the listeners. So the important thing would be very clear up front, how many episodes do you want to do on a weekly basis, on 2 weekly basis, or on a monthly basis? It's up to you on what you're wanting to do. For me, 3 a week was to get out there and push it. And I was going to do this episode for 1 year only. That was my agreement with Mike, actually. I'm going to do it for 1 year, and let's see how it goes. 5.5 years later, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I can't get enough of this. Keep the production simple. Now, what do I mean by that? Overproduction, I think, kills momentum. If you overdo it in your episodes, people get lost. Keep it simple. But also, the production of your episodes can be quite difficult too. I don't produce my episodes. I've always outsourced it and got a team in the Philippines that do it for me, and they do it on a regular basis, and they can do it way better than I can. Can I do it? Sure I can. But I decide to use my time, which is better interviewing people, being on stage speaking, facilitating workshops, or coaching. That's where my time is better spent. So I rather do that. So then I'm able to build my business while I let others get on with it. So create a podcast that will last. Now, early on, I talked about having a podcast that adds value. So understand the content structure. So in other words, how you're going to actually do this episode, or per episode, what is the structure? I said on my Fridays, I do the freestyle. It's just me speaking on a topic or a question that I'm asked. But that topic tends to have 5 or 3 bullet points that I talk through, and I keep it very simple. In my interviews, I have 7 standard questions, and that's it. So I go, here are the 7 questions. What's been quite funny is watching people send me back the answers written. I go, hello, well, what's this? And they go, oh, that's my answers. I go, I don't want your answers. I just want you to have a dialogue. These are just giving you a heads up what the questions are. Now, whatever they say, I dive deeper into more questions and so forth, but they are really just a guideline to help us. But I take the guesswork out for people. Sometimes they are nervous. So by knowing the questions up front, it actually helps them along the whole period of time too. So understand the content structure. Please deliver practical value. What do I mean by that? You could sit there and be a talking head and it's very technical, but make it practical and of value for your listeners. Because why? Because you want to be remembered. You want to be remembered for the good things, right? The value that you add. And you want people coming back every week, or how many times you actually are releasing an episode. It's actually quite interesting to see how people are on a regular basis getting in there, knowing that a podcast episode has come out, and it's part of their own cadence, their own sort of rituals or routines as well, which happens. So remember, have a podcast that adds value. Don't just do a podcast for doing podcast's sake. You know how I said earlier on that consistency is vital. Why? Because I think that podcasts are a great platform for you and I to build authority. Sorry, let me go back. I think I'm okay. So with consistency, most podcasts fail due to the inconsistency. So in other words, here we go. I do one this week, and then I wait 2 more weeks, and I'm meant to be doing them weekly. Even my intro says, oh, this is a weekly episode. Then I do another one 3 weeks later, and another one 2 months later, and it just doesn't get traction. And so there's this inconsistency. And so people give up. They won't follow you. They won't listen to you. But if you are regularly turning up, that's the important part. That's why after 806 episodes, doing 3 episodes per week, I've got a new nickname, and they call me Mr. Consistency now. And so that's the important thing about it. It's the same thing that everything you and I are doing in business. It's everything Mike and Lundy talk about, being consistently showing up to do the things you need to do. Next bullet point is very important. Build systems and habits. I'm going to throw another word in there as well, processes. Build systems, processes, and habits. Even the way that I go and approach people to be a guest. I don't actually have to approach people now to be a guest anymore. I have, and I'm not joking, 7 to 10, maybe 15 emails in my inbox every single day from people around the world who wanted to be a guest on my podcast. So I spend more time now researching them and saying no, because I want to make sure it's a right fit for my audience and I'm not wasting their time as well. So there's a whole system around that, how I get them on board, how I get them to be booked in and so forth. There's a whole system around that too. There's systems around how we kick off the actual recording, what I do and how I set up the call, everything, even right down to the end of sending them a thank you email right after the recording has been completed. That is also automated, right? So build systems and habits and actually meeting people and recording with them, or even if you're just doing it yourself as well. Show up when motivation fades. Now, what do I mean by that? I've got to stages, and you probably as well, and a lot of things you've done in life whereby, I can't be bothered, or I'm just tired, or we've got some other things on. And I'm going like, but there's a deadline because the production team need it. So show up when the motivation fades. Because I find that if I'm getting like that, I'm tired, when I'm actually recording an episode or I'm interviewing someone, that motivation just takes off again as well. Goes back to one of the first slides I have. Why are you doing podcasts? Why are you doing podcasting? Goes back to the why. If it's very clear and you know what your why is, that's actually going to help a lot. Building an asset is really important. It's about you becoming an authority in the market. And I think podcasts are a great platform to allow you to do that. It helps you build credibility. It actually helps you build relationships as well, which is very important. So being an authority in the market is important. Now, how can you do that? Well, you could do that probably from speaking on stage, or you could probably do that from writing a book that some of you have done, or you can do it all other ways. Podcast is another platform that you can do, that you can actually make that happen. It can help you drive business. Some people go and get sponsors for their podcast. The sponsors pays a fee to have, to have all their sort of company or things around on the podcast. I'm tending to sort of not go down that track. The reason being is we're finding that some of the sponsors are starting to become a little bit controlling in the sense they want to determine how you do the podcast, who you should interview, the structure and all that. And so sometimes it can be a little bit hard. Advertising could be another way of doing it. You can advertise your own business on your podcast. A quick 20-second or 30-second advert about your services or a program or something that you do can be on your own podcast as well. There's been some scenarios whereby I've put a proposal in to be speaking on stage or to coach somebody or to go and work with the leadership team. And there might be 2 or 3 others as well that have gone put proposals. My podcast has actually won me the business. They've said to me, because of your podcast, because of what you do, your authority in the market, we are going with you. So that's why I say that podcasting is a very, very, very strong way for you to build your business as well and for you to bring income in. The third bullet point that I have on the slide there is about repurpose content. Now you can actually record a video of you speaking, and then you can take the audio out and then make that the podcast so that your video can go onto YouTube, you get views there, and then you can take the audio and put that onto Apple, Spotify, and other platforms as well. The host of your podcast has a platform, and they'll put you onto different platforms around the world. I didn't know this, but I'm on the 2 largest podcast platforms in India. How did I do that? I didn't. It's just the podcast hosting organization. They've gone and put it out, and it's just like, wow, that's pretty cool. So you can actually repurpose the content. So what we're doing is, you know how I talked about the Ask Denis Friday freestyle episode? Well, now we're taking those and they're becoming articles. So we're converting those and transcribing them and turning them into articles. They go onto my website, they can go onto LinkedIn, they can go elsewhere as well. And we also talk about the podcast and the articles and other things in my newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks. So the next step here for you is, if you are someone who's thinking about starting a podcast, you might want to decide if you would like to have that podcast or not, based on what I'm sharing with you today. Maybe I'm scaring you away, but I don't want you to be scared away. I just want you to be more prepared and understand what might happen. The other thing too is, if you've already got a podcast but you want to relaunch it or you want to take it to another level, I'd love you to start thinking about that. But also decide the purpose of your podcast and take massive action over the next 7 days, right? I want to show you a couple of things as well around assets that I've created to go back to that comment I said before about aligning your podcasts to your brand and also to your goals as well, right? So my podcast, Janet's just coming in now. So my podcast is available, and what's quite interesting is the thing here is, there's my contact details if you're wanting to get hold of me. But the podcast is available. You see the coloring on the branding of the label, the leadership is changing, is the blue, jacket color blue. You'll see in the background's more darker, and I've got a black t-shirt on as well. You look at my logo as well on the screen. That's all available for you. But what you notice is that the logo, the podcast, my t-shirt, everything I'm doing is all related to the brand as well. So then I've got another thing as well. Oh yeah, there's the QR code if you wanted to look at the podcast. You can do that, but you can search for it on Apple and Spotify as well to get access to the podcast itself. Here's one of my other assets that I've got as well, right? That's actually resulting from coming from the interviews that I've done. I've got 2 of them. And we call them lead magnets. So what I've done is I've taken from the podcast about 30 themes over the last 5.5 years, and I've gone and created a document. It's called the 10 Proven Ways to Lead and Thrive in Today's World. Okay. Then I've gone and created another document, which is the 5 Leadership Shifts for 2026. But you notice as well the branding around the logo, the coloring and everything, the same look and feel around the other brands I'm talking about for the podcast and so forth. So when people start to think about Denis, when people start to think about bringing me in to do business, the podcast is in their mind, the branding's there, but also in other things I do too. And I even said to you early on that even in my newsletter that we put out every 2 weeks, that's coming out at 5 a.m. New Zealand tomorrow morning. And even my banner, we even talk about the podcast in there. So once again, it's about positioning that Michael Lundy talk about. It's about branding. It's about how do you drive your business by using the podcast as a platform to help you grow and do what you're needing to do. Okay. Team, I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to pause. I'm going to ask you what questions you may have for me. What are your thoughts on doing a podcast? What questions you might have about starting one? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, and then we can take from there. Yeah, go ahead.
Dennis, hi. First of all, a great presentation. Thank you very much. A few questions. First of all, I had a fear for years to have my own podcast because lots of headache, taking the studio and everything and looking for guests. But then I realized that I'm a guest in many podcasts, and then someone told me you can create your own podcast just by taking all the episodes you were in other people's podcasts, and this is how I created my own podcast. So each time I'm a host with someone else, I take I ask them for the raw file, and then I add it into my YouTube channel and my Spotify and etc. So this is also one legit way. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it that way as well. So that's why I'm saying go on 20 interviews and be interviewed by other people. What I might do, team, is I might just stop sharing, so then we can talk. So I think, you just, I think you could do that. You can do the interviews, ask them for permission as well to be able to get the recording too. You're giving your time, and their time as well, so why not? So that's actually a good way to doing it as well. So yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned the studio too. This is, I think, one of the things that stop people from starting a podcast. It's all the technical side. Oh, do I have to get a studio? The answer is no. Do I have to get a good microphone and all that? The answer is no. You don't need all that expensive equipment. I started off with the Rode podcast mic because I just like the good stuff. But there are cheaper versions as well. You can get a boom if you want to. But what I've got in my room, which is a studio, which happens to be another room in the house, I've just got a desk. I've got a boom arm, which you don't need. I've got the microphone on there. I've got my headset. And I've got my laptop with the software that I use to do with recordings with people around the world. And I find that people use the studio and the technology and other things as an excuse, right? Why do I know that? Because I did the same. I used it as an excuse as well for about a year until we went into lockdown, and I thought, okay, now's the opportunity for me to do it. And so, yeah. Did you have something else or any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah. Can I ask another one?
Yeah, go for it.
Can you address the ranking of podcasts? Because, for example, if I would like to be a guest, I also always check the ranking, and I try to appear to be a guest only in 1%, 2% of the top ranking podcasts in my field, which is sales, marketing, persuasion, public speaking. But you mentioned there are 3 to 4 million podcasts, so actually we're talking about 30,000 podcasts, something like that. So what about ranking? Yeah. How can I'm talking about international ranking, not just per country.
Yeah, so I think if you can go on, there's something I think called Listen Notes. I think it's called. It's a website. Yeah, you know about it. Yeah, and that tends to tell you that whether they're on the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, whatever. I think there's that, but I actually the way I do it is I actually go and listen to their podcast. I listen to 1 or 2 episodes, and then what I do is I determine whether their audience is going to get value from me, and then I might approach them as well. That's the way I tend to do it too. There are people that charge you to go onto podcasts too. If I see someone who's a tire kicker, as I call it, and someone who, I could put them on, I say it's $100 US for them to come onto the podcast. Nope, they're off. I'm like, cool. I didn't have to waste that time with people as well. So yeah, you can check out the rankings and things like that. And on Apple as well, you can see the rankings, but the rankings change several times per day. And the rankings are based on the number of downloads that you may have, or people are subscribing to your actual podcast or actually listening to it as well. So, Spotify, Apple does it. Spotify doesn't do the rankings, whereby you used to be able to do a 5-star and a review on Apple, you can do that. On Spotify, you can only do a 5-star. You can't do a comment as a review as well. So, yeah, there's all various things. But I would actually go and check out the podcast and decide where things are as well.
Okay, thank you. Another question, please, if it's possible.
Sure. Yeah, good. And I know we've got another question. Yep.
About call to action. Which call to action do you do at the end of each episode? And if you're a guest, what do you recommend to have for call to action, or what call to action do you allow your guests to do at the end of each episode?
So first of all, I don't want them sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes just promoting their business, because it's going to be boring for the audience listener, right? So I don't do that. Some of them sometimes will have a gift for the audience, and they might say that, and we do that, and then we put the link in the show notes, so the production team do that. Other times, what happens is the call to action would be, hey, if people are wanting to get a hold of you, where should they go? And I set them up before we do the recording to say their LinkedIn profile, their website, and we put that in the link in the show notes as well, so people can click on it too. That tends to be the call to action. The call to action to the listeners is, I will finish off by summarizing 3 points based on the interview. When the person's speaking, I'm taking heaps of notes, and because I'm looking for a title of the episode, I'm thinking about the next question I want to ask, but I'm also thinking about how do I summarize this episode with the interview with the person. So it tends to be the top 3 things, but asking the listeners, what are you going to do now? How are you going to go away and take them, put that into place? And that's what I tend to do. And my own personal freestyle one on the Friday, I always get to the end with a call to action. Sometimes there's 2 call to actions. One is, please share this podcast or this episode with somebody who you think needs it, or go and put a review and a rating. Or if it's around a certain topic, hey, what's the one thing you're taking away from today's episode, and what are you going to do with it? Go away and work on it. And how about you send me a message, either by email or by a direct message on social media, telling me what you got out of the episode.
Thank you very much. Great content, Dennis. Thanks.
Pleasure. Okay, who else have got a hand up? Okay.
Yeah, I do, Dennis.
Hi.
Hi, how's it? So yeah, fair, thanks. I mean, this was awesome, Dennis. In fact, it's just what the doctor ordered at the right time. Just 1 or 2 points on my side. So I think you spoke about, so basically where I am is, I've got this deadline of March where I really have to start. Now, this is a deadline that's 3 years overdue. So I've really been stuck in fear, in a lot of excuses, for the past 3 years. And, so finally I've decided, listen, stake in the ground, put a date, and then reverse engineer from there. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that I think the reality, and I'll get to what my point is. The reality is that I'm fortunate in that I've got access to audiences, and I've got access to the people that I want to interview, and really trust has been created on both sides. So, it's an easier journey for me. However, like I say, I'm stuck in the fear because it's something that's new, and I'm stuck in the excuses. So the question then becomes, do you provide, a professional service of, I don't know, coaching, mentorship, and all of those things too? Because ultimately is that I know that I'll still be stuck in the excuses. Whereas if I've got, someone like yourself who has been through the journey to help with from research to execution in a short space of time, and whatever that professional services fee looks like, do you provide that kind of a service?
Yeah, I do. And we've got another brand we're about to launch as well around in relation to a lot of that, what you just talked about. But I just got to say to you, that's 3 years you've been thinking about that. That's 3 years that your listeners have not heard your voice. That's 3 years. That's a bit like Madeleine Albright, who was a secretary of the US Secretary of State, who went to the United Nations for the very first time when she became the Secretary of State. And she didn't speak on day 1. And somebody came up to her and said, Madam Secretary, you didn't speak today. And she says, no, I was just listening. And the person said, great. That means the US, the voice of the US was not heard today. And so for you, you've got, I think all of us, we have a responsibility as leaders to share with people, to help them grow and develop them. And so let's get on with it. So yeah, if you want to have a chat offline, more than happy to do that. That's all good. But it sounds exciting for you. So well done. Is there anything else you want to cover off there? We're going to go to Gavin.
Yeah, Dennis, give some space. My question is really regarding the software that you use in terms of your podcast. How do we keep it simple but still have a system that can be outsourced? Where guys go and do your production for you.
Oh, okay. So there's a couple of things there. One is the software that I use to do interviews. There's plenty of them out there. So one that I've used all up to 806 episodes has been Squadcast. Mike's talked about it as well in other sort of sessions he's done like this. And Squadcast is very resource heavy. So a better one nowadays is Riverside, is another one. And there's others out there too. So what I would suggest is you go out and research and see which is one of the better ones out there for you to do. You could even use Zoom, right? You don't actually have to have special podcast software. You can use Zoom. There's no problem with Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. Like, if you want to keep it really simple, and then at a later stage change, are there risks in changing? No. I'm sure. No.
I think the most important thing is just get underway, right, and just do it.
Yeah.
And that's it, because there's the 3 years of fear, procrastination, holding us back. And like I said, I was like that too, and so it's about getting out there. You know what? I actually went to talk to a couple of people about doing a podcast, and they weren't willing to help me. And I'm like, what? And they just weren't willing to talk and discuss it with me. And I was just like, I got to go and find people. So I just went and found people who would help me, right? And I think that's important. So the software's out there. Now the production side, I've got people who can do that. You can actually do it yourself as well. It's not that difficult. I don't know, depending on how technical you are with technology, how good you are with that.
See the grey hairs. No.
Well, I got grey hairs too, but
But I mean, it's just another learning in the process, I suppose.
Yeah. So more than happy for you to reach out to me, and I can, we can talk about it as well and take it from there. But there is things out there that you can do and get people to help you for it. Yep, definitely.
Sure. Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it.
And also, no problem as well. And Gavin, I think the important thing too is I want my podcast, like for you work with, you're a C-suite person in that. My audience is C-suite and senior leaders and entrepreneurs or high performers, right? I don't want a crap podcast. I want quality. I want high level quality, and hence why the production team have been able to take it to a higher level too.
Yeah.
Cool. Valerie, thanks, Gavin. Valerie, I think you had your hand up before, sorry. Valerie, you there? You might. Saw you come off mute. Oh, there you go. Oh. How are you, Valerie? Thanks, Dovey. I'm just going to check the comments as we're just waiting for Valerie. People introducing themselves, thank you. Question 1, I will watch the recording, thank you. Thanks, Nadia. Question 1, is your podcast monetized? Monetized in the sense that, see, a lot of people go, oh, so how much money do you make your podcast? It doesn't work like that. I use the podcast as marketing, credibility, authority to go out there and get me the business and bring it in. You can, as I said before, bring sponsors in, or if you're like Joe Rogan, you can sell yours to Spotify. Yeah, but that's not that easy to do, right? So that's one thing. Number 2 is, how much time does this take? Seems very time intensive. Well, like I said before, there's different systems to put in place to make it not. How do you block record, so you're not spending every minute of your day doing this kind of stuff. Outsourcing is very interesting too. Shazar, thank you. Thanks, James. And Valerie, is that your question? What software do I use? No, I can't hear you. No. Okay, no problem. Thank you. So that's what software. I think we've answered that question before. So actually I have been using Squadcast, but I'm about to go to Riverside very soon. Do we have a copy of the presentation, perhaps, takeaway questions? Okay, we can look at doing that. And yeah, well, I think I've answered your questions, but did you just put your hand up again? Did I?
Yeah, no, I was actually going to ask if we could have the PDF. Sorry, I put my hand up before you read through the comments, so it was just to check.
Okay, I'll ask Mike how he does it. So I'll have to talk to Mike. Mike is from London, of course, still traveling at the moment, and that's why he can't be here tonight. All good. Alrighty, team. Hey, look, I think that's about it. If there's any other questions, feel free to ask. Pleasure being with you, and if I can help you, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to do it. So if you haven't got my contact details, I'm just going to share my desktop again, just so you've got it. And so you should see there my contact email that's down below. Feel free to send me an email, and or ping me on social media, so on Facebook Messenger or on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, that'd be great too. So my name is not Mike Hancock, it's Denis Gianoutsos, and feel free to catch up, which will be all good. Hey team, great catching.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, good to see you all. All the best, bye for now.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Denis.
Thank you, bye-bye.